Hello guys, this is Randogi. And for today's video, this is a different video because instead of teaching you how to play a certain hero, I am teaching you how to play jungle in general. I would say jungle is one of the best roles to choose if you are looking to increase your win rate in games in rank, especially to increase your stars as well because for now because jungle usually dictates the pace of the game. Usually if your jungler is good, there's a very high chance on winning the game, and if your jungler is bad, your team will have a hard time for sure. So now we're going for we're using Fennec because I would say Fennec is one of the best junglers right now, even though he is inferior to some junglers like Elandor or Thorn, but it doesn't matter because those two are always banned anyways. And Fennec, I like using Fennec a lot, as you can see in my history that I showed before, because Fennec as an ADC jungler, you just have using Fennec as an ADC jungler, or using ADC junglers in general, will give you more grasp in the pacing of the game because some assassin junglers, especially let's say Zeal for example, even though you own your opponents very hard, it would be very hard to push against certain comps, especially if their tower defense is very good, especially if they have something like Ignis or Alistar for example, because those heroes will have a hard time pushing towers. So as you can see, we ganked the Darkslayer lane because it's the safest option, because the priority is the mini dragon, and ganking top is, I would say, not practical because they have a zip, so their counterplay is super strong, and also they also have Hayate that has Purify, I think, and, and I would say Yena is very strong also, especially in the early game. So I would say ganking the Darkslayer is the safest option. So anyways, ADC junglers are so strong right now because, especially Fennec, because he can counter a lot of warrior or assassin junglers. Like I would say Fennec is I would say, like in my last video, Fennec is good versus Nakroth, good versus Zephys, good versus Zanis. Fennec is good versus a lot of assassin junglers. I mean, he struggles in in AP junglers. Sorry. He struggles versus AP junglers like Darcy or Zil, for example. But he is fine versus many other assassin AD based assassins because of his ability to kite them non-stop. So for using, I would say, Fennec, you have to be over aggressive, but as a jungler in general, you have to know your limits. As you can see, I dove them under tower because the Rictor is diving there anyways, and also the Reveal are participating. The Reveal and the Zata are participating. So now I'm taking the dragon because we we forced the Crixie, the Hayate, and the Zip back. So this is pretty much a free dragon for us. So now I'm going back on my jungle clear. Oops. So now we're going for Craves. For junglers, I would say, especially in ADC junglers, it's better if you rush Craves or something like a rank breaker, for example, rather than maxing your jungle item, because in the jungle item you will just get more attack speed and a little bit of life steal, but getting early Craves will make you snowball faster because it will give more damage via crit chance and crit damage. But for some heroes like I would say Lindis, for example, since Rank Breaker is pretty much nerfed now. It doesn't matter if you build it early or not. You just have to go for third jungle item or maybe Claves for Lindis. But for Fennec, it's advisable to use level 2 jungle item then rush Claves. So now the Yubu is pretty overextended and the Omen runs a beautiful ultimate on the Yubu. And we're kiting Diana because she is stuck in her casting of the S2 in her heavy damage form. So now we are ganking the DS lane more than the Abyssal lane because the Abyssal lane, even though we got lucky on the first engagement because Diana is not there, but to counterplay us, but the DS lane is pretty much easier to gank in my opinion. And usually on junglers, when to gank and how to gank and where to gank. Usually you gank where you can get the most value out of it. I mean, if your Darkslayer is having a very hard time in the lane and his lane is pretty much lost because the opponent is just so strong. Like example, if the if your Darkslayer is a weak laner like Kilgroth for example and he's facing something like a Florentino for example, it would be hard to gank the Florentino because you basically have a Kilgroth which is not strong early game. He needs a lot of farm. So ganking the Abyssal lane is the safest bet. Also, in where you should start jungling, I would say it's better if you start on the side that will lead you to the Sentinel. So as you can see, we get a very nice kill on the Yena because we saw that they took the Abyssal Dragon, and I know that someone has to defend mid. So I waited in the bush, and as you can see, I know that when I kill Diana, she only have the red buff, so I know the blue buff is not spawned yet, or she hasn't taken the blue buff. So I quickly rush to the blue buff, which makes her lose more gold. And as you can see, using jungler, it's very important to know where the enemy buffs are so you can take them for yourself. I would say that is one of the most challenging parts using a jungler. But as you play more games using junglers, you will have basically have a body clock on where the buffs are starting and where and when and where should they spawn. So basically you just have to run with the rhythm. I would say it doesn't come naturally. You just have to play more games and it will, yeah, it will come naturally if you play more games, but it's not something that you will learn pretty quick in my opinion. And the reason that I like uh Fennec for example in grinding my games in rank right now, because Fennec has a very good grasp in objectives, even better than I would say Kriknak. Kriknak is also good in objective and map control, especially if your macro is very good. But I would say Fennec is a little bit better because he is an ADC and he doesn't struggle versus towers because he is pretty much range. And Kriknak, sometimes you will own games versus Kriknak, but it's just so hard to push. So now my opinion on assassin junglers, the melee assassin junglers. Uh, I would say they're strong. Many of them are strong, and I like using a lot of them. But I just like using ADC more. So one of the questions maybe that will come to your mind, especially when you're using a melee assassin, like example Nakra for example. If you're buying Soul Reaver, the Soul Reaver has a component of Mr. Stabby, Magic Ring, Chain Hammer, and the recipe of course. But especially, you always buy kukri, right? So when you get your first 500 gold, you will get your first jungle clear. Which item should you buy? There are three options. You can buy magic ring, which is I would say it's the least superior option, and the other choices are Mr. Stabby and Chain Hammer. Usually people go for Mr. Stabby because I mean uh Mr. Stabby is, I would say, the most, I would say, because it's just it looks more appealing in my opinion. But in my opinion, buying Chain Hammer is better because Chain Hammer gives 40 damage, especially in the early game. 40 damage is very good. And uh Soul Reaver, I mean the Mr. Stabby gives 2 damage per stack, which you will get 6 monster stacks in your first jungle clear. So that's basically 12 damage. So basically, buying Chain Hammer will give you 40 damage, which means it's more gold efficient. I mean, it's cheaper, but it gives more damage, which will help you, especially in your early ganks. And you can stack that much and anyways in the early game. So because your role as a jungler is to help your team gank and not AFK farm in the jungle, so for me it's better to buy the Chain Hammer. But in ADC junglers, I would say some ADC junglers require war boots, and some I would say Gilded Greaves is the better option. Especially Gilded Greaves, you buy Gilded Greaves in heroes like Fennec or Lindis, because in my opinion, you buy those items in those heroes because uh, they have a tendency to have a close proximity to heroes in the clashes, unlike heroes like Slims will just kite you and hit you anyways from afar. That's my opinion on them. But if you're buying if you are jungling with ADC that and you're planning to buy war boots, it's better to buy war boots first than the tier 2 jungling item. I don't know what it's called, but it's the it's not the tier 3, it's the tier 2. I don't know what's its name, sorry guys. But if you are buying Gilded Greaves, it's better to buy the tier 2 jungle item, then Gilded Greaves next. So now that's just a little tip on the itemization on junglers. So as you can see in this game, I bought Slick Sting because the enemies are not stacking armor anyways, and I just love that. And they have a little bit of CC with the Crixie ultimate, the Zip ultimate and Zip S1, Yina CC and Omen CC as well. So Slick Sting gives more value than items such as Fenrir, for example, and I just want to play it safe. And Muramasa, I would say, is not an option because they are not stacking armor anyways. So now we're ending the game. So that's my advice on how to jungle. I hope you learned something in this video. Maybe in the next video I will teach you more advanced jungling tips on like how to buff track, how to and maybe more in-depth gameplays on other junglers. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel, so you will be updated when contents like those I have said before will come up. So I hope you learned something in this video, and I will see you in the next video guys. Bye bye.